Good morning. Good morning, followers and friends. I just want to say a few things on the subject of purpose-driven life. You know, life is very important. It is not just an ordinary sort of thing where we would just live anyhow, anywhere. There has to be some structure, and there has to be some sense of purpose and belonging as we see our life. So we were created for a very specific purpose. We were created by God, and that is something that you and I need to know. So when we know our purpose, that is when we will start to understand the importance of life. Life will start to make sense to us when we know the purpose of why we were created or why we are here. That's important, because think of it this way. Purpose is a compass that gives you the direction of where you're going. Purpose will really tell you where your destination is. Without purpose, we don't have a direction in life. Without purpose, we don't have a path where we should take in life. So purpose is like a compass. Purpose is like your guide. Purpose gives you a sense of meaning in life. A purpose gives you a sense of there's this feeling where you feel you belong. You belong. So the feeling of belonging comes also when you know your purpose. So how do we really get to know our purpose? That is something that I really want to talk about. So to know our purpose, we need to go back to the creator. We need to really understand from the start why you and I were created. And it all begins with God. If we don't believe that it all begins with God, that's when our life will completely be a mess. Because without God, there's no there's no starting point. We begin, there has to be a starting point somewhere. And it all starts right from there with Him, with God. So we need to look at why God created us. And that is where we need to go back and start from. And that's from the Bible alone, that it tells us who we are, why we are created, and what we're supposed to do, and where we are going from here. So I want to encourage every one of us that we must have a starting point of our life. And we need to go back and begin that discovery right with God. We need to begin right with God. I'm making this video to encourage you and I to be able to discover that unique purpose as to why God has created us. Many people are dying without really knowing why they were created, or without really discovering their purpose. Like for me as a young man, I need to know what I'm supposed to do in life. I need to know why I'm here. I can't be just doing things anyhow, any other, anyway, and then expect something good to happen. I need to do something to really get that something good that I want in life. And it all starts with a purpose statement. And that's where you go back and you define that purpose right with God, right from the start with God. Because without Him, there is no proper definition of life, and there is no proper direction of life that you and I can take. I know this video might be boring. There is no any music at the background that will keep you captivating to listen. But friends, let me remind you this: God is much more bigger than how we feel and how we think, and He is always with us to remind us of who we are. And we find our value when we abide in Him, when we start with Him, when we define life from his perspective. We start from him. And then when we start with him from the start, that's when we will be able to know that purpose. And that purpose is something that we will continue to discover in life, and that will keep us on track with him as we journey on to discover who we are, the potentials that were made, and that lives in us, where uh, they need to be materialized. They need to come out. They need to really be manifested in real life, where you would really appreciate your potentials, your values, and you will feel that feeling of belonging, and that a sense of, as someone that has value and purpose in life. So I will continue to make some good videos. This is essentially the first video. I'm going live just to have a feel of what it is, and to share what this channel will be all about. It's all about, encouraging, motivating, and sharing all this content that will help us to be the person that God created us to be in life.